Hello and welcome into Off Topic. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdinho on Sorare. Joined today by the man formerly known as Croc Dude, known as Croc Dude on limited time only today. NepentheZ here to talk about Sorare content. Nep, what's up?
What's up, man? Yeah, doing good. Doing good. We weren't late, by the way. We were actually here. We were just chatting.
Did somebody say we were late?
Yeah.
Slightly Lairdinho? Yeah. That's the case every time, though, when I'm late. Like, I'm here. It's not like I'm like running to my desk and I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
And I like hit go live and I'm sweating here, but I don't know. Thanks for everyone for joining. I was going to shout out, where is it? Shezzy? Is that how you'd say that now?
Yeah.
Managing to catch live for the first time. And what a stream to get. You haven't even gotten anything yet. I wouldn't start thanking us quite yet. Then again, everybody go hit the like button, even though Nep says it doesn't matter. Always helpful. Or helpful for me.
Say it doesn't matter. YouTube says it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you told me that YouTube says. So it's like one of those you're quoting somebody who's quoting.
Yeah, but like interactions used to have massive advantage, and even like thumbs down, because it was an interaction, doesn't matter if it was a negative. YouTube's like, oh, people are like engaged with this video, let's push it. And so I made a video one time many moons ago where I was like, oh, like the video if you like what I'm saying and dislike it if you don't like what I'm saying. And it just blew up for likes and dislikes and it became one of my most viewed videos at that time. And I was like, yeah, that really works. And then I just went back to my normal processes and never did something like that again. And so that was my bad. But now, if you've got loads of interactions, you've probably just got a good video. But it's not the interactions that drive the video anymore. So don't like the video, don't dislike the video. Just
you know what you should
if you like the video.
Watch the entire thing.
Yeah.
How about that? Just watch all the videos. All of them. Play them in the background if you want, but just put them on. It's funny because I feel like that was just getting us off topic, but that's literally the topic that we're talking about today. Not necessarily like how to beat the YouTube algorithm, but it is something about content that a few people I know are basically battling with now. Like it does seem like there are more. Yeah, Bouncy's right. Off topic with a topic. Don't worry. There will be plenty of ways for us to go off the rails. Have you ever seen a show I've done with Nep? There's no way that we ever end up keeping one topic. But this is one that I think I tried to get you to talk about like 2 weeks ago. And then I was like, oh, wait, never mind. We'll do it later. And so thank you for coming back after I basically just blew us off.
Yeah, that's all right. As somebody in the chat said before, I'm not effectively on payroll at this point. Laird and SD don't know it yet, but they're paying for this. One way or another, they're paying for this. That sounds more ominous than it should have done, but yeah.
Don't give them any ideas, please. I will say about you and doing Sorare stuff, content, and everything that you do about it. When I did Nellis's show 2 weeks ago, you did it the week before me. And before we started, as you do, you're just chatting a little bit. And I was saying how much I enjoyed the show. And he was like, you know what's like just wild is how much Nep loves Sorare. He's like, he just loves it. And I was like, no, like it totally like comes through. And it's clear that I think, because you commented probably during that show that the number of people who see what you do on Sorare, like you talk about it on Twitch or on YouTube, and they're like, you're obviously getting paid to do this. And you're like, no, fundamentally you are paying to do it.
Yeah.
And people just like can't believe it. But I feel like it's very easy these days to tell what sponsored content is. And if you were being paid by Sorare to do what you do, it would be the most, like, you should be paid by every brand out there, because it's like the passion that you get for this is what they get when they get paid, when they pay you. Then my God, you should have 1,000 brand deals at this point.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I've always had this thing, and especially the combination of football, math or strategy, whichever way you want to look at it, and gambling. That trio has like been bound in me since I was like teenager. And so Sorare captures all of that And although we could definitely argue the semantics of whether this is or isn't gambling, it scratches that gambling itch one way or the other. And so it is the perfect combination of all of those things. And that's why I love it so much. Yeah.
It comes out. And here we are
Yeah.
talking about it now.
Yeah.
I have noticed that your 9-hour Sorare streams have gotten a bit lighter recently.
Yeah, it's like summer holidays here, so the kids have been off school. So there's been a lot of like yesterday we went to the farm, and it was a really good time, but we was there for like 7 hours from like door to door. So like I was like, Lauren, like, come on, we've got Sorare to stream. But no, it wasn't really. But yeah, but like summer holidays and all. But kids go back to school in a week, so then I'll be back to normal programming for Sorare streams. But I'm going to be doing on YouTube as well. I'm going to be joining you on YouTube. I'm going to be trying to steal your viewers.
Just bring them over. Let's just
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I will say that Nep and I have talked about doing a regular show, and if anybody wants to leave any comments of what we should talk about every week, maybe you can come up with a new Sorare data show, because we might have an opening on a day. Although I did just tell you that I was going to start doing multiple shows a day, partially because my kids are also going back to school tomorrow.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Very excited. I should just take tomorrow off just so I can do whatever I want. Anyway. Sorry, the farm comments are starting to get me in the chat. But anyway, so now we talked about the future of Sorare content with each other. And then at some point we were like, wait, we do content for a living. We should just talk to each other, but in front of other people about this. The content that is out now, like that everybody does, it feels like there's a lot of similar content.
Yeah.
And whenever I talk to people who are like, hey, I want to get into doing some Sorare content, what do you think of this? And it just feels like we're lacking originality when it comes to new shows, because a lot of people do their, the lineup builders and their rewards reveals, which are probably different categories anyway. But there's a lot of just, it feels like it's just watching someone play Sorare instead of, I don't even know what the alternative is. But do you see that more often, and what do you think? How do we get out of this? Because I get bored by it, to be honest, of seeing more and more of the same lineup.
So a little bit on a tangent, but on the same kind of point, there was like 5 years ago, people used to make obscene amounts of money from just people watching them play a game. And whether that be on stream or videos, even for myself, like I'd stream just playing FIFA for a few hours. And there was nothing really exceptional about that. Like anybody can just play a game and anybody can watch somebody playing a game. And then the streaming deals came, and then the streaming deals went, and it created this like issue with a lot of content creators that got lazy. And I was one of those that just like started resting on my laurels, right? I was getting paid to stream, which just became way too easy. And so when that paycheck stopped and you started having to be creative again, during the 3 years I had streaming deals where I didn't have to be creative, the rest of the industry didn't know that I didn't have to be creative. So they carried on being creative, and new people excelled because they weren't being paid to just stream. So they had to be thoughtful with what they were doing, how they were doing it, when they were doing it. And they raised the floor of the general quality of content to a level that wasn't there before. And now, like those people that have kind of finished a streaming deal, some of them have literally just stopped content because they didn't have it in them or was too lazy or whatever. And some people like myself, like we're fighting to kind of like catch up to these new like status quos, this new standard of level. The way content on Sorare is just that really bottom level lazy content. Doing a lineup builder is lazy. Chatting here is lazy. Like there's no preparation has gone into this, no thought about has gone into this. There's no plan, there's no theme. It is just it is like that low hanging fruit, bottom of the barrel, as easy as you can content. Sorare needs more, but it can't also be rushed. Like, it's also incredibly important for this content to exist because it will inspire people to move to that next level. But it also has to work like in tandem with what Sorare are doing and how they allow us to create content on their game, and what Sorare data have to offer as potential content paths as well. So whilst we'll look back probably, I hope so, touch wood, in 5, 6, 7 years at this kind of content, it'd be like, how did we get away with doing that? It's also incredibly vital to like the success and creating the pathways for the content in the first place.
Pedigle right here exposing Laird for zero effort put into the show. This is not zero effort, hardly.
It is, and put the comment back up, and I'll tell you why. It's not a zero effort. I'm really not trying to call you out. When you forgot when you show a comment to move the names back to the bottom. So when that scene changes, when you post a comment, our names go above our heads, and when the comment disappears, our names come back below our heads. So like if you take the comment off now, yeah, now our names are below our heads, and it's that continuity that's just like, why isn't that the same?
Oh, I don't do that.
Yeah, so whoever does that, they're lazy.
I'll send that feedback to Streamlabs. Mike is saying, is a podcast of people talking about a topic, not content. Is a podcast of people. Yeah. Oh, is a podcast of people talking about a topic, not content. Sorry. It took me a second to translate that in my head. Do you think that there's, I'm actually going to change that question a little bit. Do you think there's a significantly different audience that wants videos versus podcasts?
Yeah, enough to the point where it matters for sure.
And do you think that the audience, the Sorare audience, like I think based on our own stuff, video is still significantly more popular.
Yeah.
And most podcast, like our podcast is just this video in audio form. There's no change. And based on the listens that we get, I don't see a reason to do like audio only content. Part of that is that a lot of what we do is like sharing stuff on Sorare data, which is like when you're listening to it, it's not as exciting, I guess. Yeah, Mike is right. It's a visual podcast, but I don't know. It seems like I don't know what the path is, but it does seem like there are a lot of podcasts, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we've hit the point where we know where that podcasts are more successful than videos, or if there's room for both.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I do think there's room for both, but I also think like in terms of visual podcasts, like I've probably listened to a podcast 5 times literally ever, but I've watched hundreds of podcasts, right? It's like the visual aspect is really important for me to connect with who is talking to me, what they're talking about, facial expressions, like even the way I'm like, I use my hands a lot when I talk, like people's demeanor. It's like, for me, I get value out of seeing that, and I can't just hear that. But even like the Sorare podcasts or the Sorare data podcast as well, is like when you look at the top visual podcasts on YouTube, I would dare say not a single one of them is done over Streamlabs or Skype or anything like that. They are there in a set together with their audience. And that, again, is that production quality that makes a massive, massive difference. But it's also because Sorare is in its infancy, unless somebody wants to fund that, nobody's going to do it off their own back.
Yeah, Alex brought that up specifically. He said, I guess the reason most Sorare content is lazy is because most creative content comes with expenses that wouldn't be returned on creative content, which Nellis has talked about himself. Like, all of the stuff he does is expensive to make.
Yeah, it is. But he's a pioneer in that sense. And I don't know if he makes profit or loss right now. I could only imagine maybe it's somewhere on the border, but he will be the person that starts getting those 1 million, 2 million, 3 million view videos where the production cost doesn't really change too much, but the income changes dramatically because he's the person that's going out of his way to spend the money now to make that absolute premium content that will pay dividends long term. And as more and more and more people get involved in Sorare and Sorare content, watching Sorare, consuming the content, and the quality goes up and up and up, he's already that step ahead. So if you make something that's incredible, his video is 100% going to be in the recommended because it's already incredible. So as better content comes, he'll just reap the benefits of other people's success as well.
But isn't his realistic upside moving away from Sorare?
100%, yeah. Football, it has to be football, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not really he's not trailblazing a new Sorare content path. It's just, hey, here's how to get a bunch of viewers. Sorare, obviously,
that's very true, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like what Sorare Josh says there, Sorare's content is pretty lazy too. Just top 10s to buy, lineup builders. Like it really is. And part of that is because the content, and I've mentioned this to you before, right? The content creators in Sorare generally have never made content before. They don't know, they don't always have the best mics, the best cameras. They don't always have the best understanding of how to edit videos. And I don't, to a degree as well, which is why I have video editors. Fortunately, they do a far better job than I ever could. But it's very, very, very hard to make certain pieces of content on Sorare when Sorare themselves don't offer you the luxury of certain data sets or historical information, future information. Like there's not, like we could, like a piece of content that I think would be fun, and Josh Excels, who is the video editor there in the chat, like literally mentioned it to me just before we went, how he's dumbfounded that like Sorare don't do a month-long free-to-play tournament as well alongside the All-Stars. And it is ludicrous. Like they would draw so many people in for that. But just being able to like plan a month of fixtures and plan my lineups for a month. And I know certain things happen and certain things change, but like on FPL, those guys get so many views on like, who should you triple captain this week? And so it's like the demand is there, but the kind of like the way that you showcase the content and the demand on Sorare side at the moment just isn't there, because the free to play side of things is more confusing and overwhelming than it is accessible. And that's, I genuinely think, like, if you said to somebody, you can play Sorare and win something that you could sell and just withdraw to your wallet every single week, or you could play FPL for the whole year, they'd probably spend 10 minutes on Sorare and be like, yeah, no, I'll just do FPL. Because it's that confusing and overwhelming that you can't be bothered to even try just to make the get the rewards.
Like the game itself is too confusing?
Yeah, because for you it's not, because you're experienced on it, so you understand the nuance, right? But like my nephew's here, he's like just doing a bits and bobs for me, learning how to edit some videos and stuff. And he has his free to play stuff. And he was showing me just today, he was like, oh, I only put the MLS team in for this game week, not the one upcoming, but the one we've just finished, when he could have had 6 teams. And I was like, why didn't you put the other teams? He's like, oh, I just don't have players in some of them. I was like, what do you mean you don't have players? So he clicked on it. He's like, look, I tried to build a team, and he's like, I just don't have a defender. And I'm like, yeah, that's because they've transferred out or the club got relegated, and he just didn't know that. And now when he goes to change those players, he's like, I don't know who's playing. I don't know who starts. I don't know anything. Like Sorare give all like like their user interface and their user experience is just hideous when it comes to actually trying to figure out somebody who plays, somebody who's going to start, somebody who fits into the team when they have a fixture, how they have a fixture. Like they've got it all wrong when it comes to like ease of use of the free to play side of things. And that translates up the ladder as well.
So I'm glad you brought up the FPL thing, because before I joined Sorare Data, when I worked at RotoWire, all of the content I did, 95% of the content I did was completely useless within 48 hours, because it was always like a game, like a weekend preview that went out on Thursday or Friday, and literally by Saturday, it didn't matter what I said. And I kind of always thought I never wanted to do that kind of content again, because it's not fun to like spend time planning something out and doing everything, and within 48 hours, like nobody would ever need to watch it again.
Yeah.
All of that stuff, that FPL stuff that you were describing applies. Like, oh, who should we triple captain this week? Who are we bringing in? And yet I understand that people will watch that stuff at that time, but there has to be something that, and I guess because of that, there will always be that type of content. But you don't think that there is a free-to-play, a Sorare free-to-play video that goes out every week that can compete? And I don't mean compete in views at this point, because so many more people play FPL. But surely that has to exist somewhere, right?
Yeah, I do think it should be. I think as I explained to you before, with like limited time only and such. Like, I watched your podcast with Sean yesterday, and one of my biggest takeaways from that is that almost nobody cares about what you're talking about because they can't afford to do it. And that's why the free-to-play side of things, not that they don't care in that sense of like what you were saying has validity, the strategies make sense, the opinions still valid down the pile as well. But nobody makes content, nobody yet makes content for the full free-to-play side of things. And when they do, and if you can like master that niche, you can, like, I won a free-to-play reward this week.
I saw.
So if
I didn't see, actually, I take that back. My son told me.
Oh, did he? Yeah. And so like showcasing how I arrived at the decisions that I did to get to where I got to would be something people would genuinely be interested in, because it goes to show, hey, it doesn't matter who you are or how big your gallery is, everyone's on the same playing field. So if I can do it, so can you. And so if so can you, your interest peaks way, way more.
Do you think that FPL is easier to copy? So the only reason I like FPL teams are easier to copy. So it's like, all right, everyone's triple captaining whoever this week, and we all have this 4.0 defender because he's been starting. And a lot of the content is just like, yeah, people like, there's a herd mentality of lineups, of players. They're like, oh, you need this player, whatever. And so you all end up with those players. It seems like with Sorare, because you only need 5, like at least to start, the one decision actually can change multiple positions. And so we won't have that many similar lineups. And therefore it gets away from people being like, this is relatable to me because I have those players. But as soon as you like get off the path, it's like, oh, this doesn't apply to me. Well, like obviously it applies, because like just you said, the strategies and how I got here, but most people skip right over that. They don't hear the lesson. They just hear the examples, and they're like, oh, I guess I needed this guy because Nep has it.
100%. Like when I did the video on the main channel for the Global Cup, the amount of people that tweeted me or responded to me in the coming days and weeks that just had the same team because I put that team together was alarming to me, because it was my first foray into like that side of content in any way. And like I remember saying it in the video, and I still believe it now. It's like, if you just copy me, if I fail, you fail. But if I succeed, you don't necessarily succeed as good as me because I did it first. So like, you're never going to win if you just copy what I'm doing. And it's the same on FPL, right? Like if somebody's had, let's say, not Haaland, or let's say Matoma, somebody was just like, look, I feel like Matoma's going to have a massive season, and they just had Matoma, and you was like, oh yeah, like I see what you're saying, but I'm going to put in Rashford instead. And then Matoma bangs for a couple of game weeks, and you're like, oh, that guy was right. Let me swap Rashford with Matoma. He's now 2 game weeks ahead of you with Matoma scores. So you're never going to catch him up. Yet that herd mentality is there. They're all like, I was watching, because I've been trying to like get inspiration for Sorare content from the FPL guys. So I started watching their like live game week deadline streams and things like that. And all you see is the same people. Should I swap out this guy for the guy you've got? Should I exchange this guy for the guy you've got? Who do you think's better, this guy or that guy? And it's like, if you can't make the decisions yourself, you have zero chance of succeeding. And even if your decision is wrong, you are still in a better place than if you just copied someone and got it right.
Yeah, exactly. But I still think that most people who watch this content, that type of content, really aren't there to get better at the game. They're there to get a lineup.
Yeah, they just want to win something. Yeah, right. They just want that bragging rights on FPL or a card on Sorare. They just want to win. Yeah.
There are two comments I wanted to, and Ben makes, this is really good. And actually, where did this come up? I'll think of that in a second. But he said all the Sorare content is time limited also. You watch a Nellis video from a year ago and he's talking about $100 limiteds being cheap. And that part is really true. And every so often I'll notice on YouTube, there's like hey, how to play for $500, how to play for $400. And it's just, you can see the stream of where Sorare's gone because the number just keeps getting lower and lower as if it's a good, scouting's not any better. It's actually just our cards aren't worth as much. But that is kind of an interesting point that even the general how to do stuff is so outdated. And actually where it might've been, I can't believe I'm actually going to say this, but I guess I have to. I think it was in the Sorare Scandinavia Discord that somebody was asking about. It wasn't what did we have before the academy, or maybe it was just like the old training lineups, whatever it was. They had just joined, and they were like asking about that, about the training lineups or something. And they were like, "Yeah, I watched this video." Somebody was like, "When was the video posted?" They were like, "A year ago," and we were like, "Oh, none of that applies now. Like, don't even think about it." And that's actually. You would think from a content perspective, it's a good thing in terms of, I can put out a new video now because there's new stuff. But that's also really frustrating that there are videos out there that you almost have to like go back and change the title or the description. Like, this doesn't apply anymore.
Yeah, don't watch this now. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And that people keep asking me, hey, when like, are you going to make a video on like how to do the free to play stuff? And I'm like, I am, but when they change it. Because at the moment, like, you can't get PSG players, you can't get Napoli players, Milan players. Like, half the 3 teams that are in the Premier League, you can't get access to those players because they've been promoted and they've not minted yet. And 3 teams don't have games because they got relegated, which means you're limited to a maximum of 14 teams. And even then, some of them aren't like part of the site, so maybe 12 teams. It's just pointless. It's just absolutely pointless making content on it. And that's what I mean by like Sorare have a ways to go themselves to allow the content to thrive. Like if they're stifling what people can do, it really hurts the overall growth of everything.
Do you think, and obviously the promotion relegation issue you just brought up is obviously an issue for them until the new cards come out. But like you mentioned PSG and you mentioned, I don't even remember who the Serie A team you mentioned was.
I think Milan. I just say Napoli, but I think they might be there. I've got some Napoli cards. I just don't know if they're actually, if you started now, if you could get them.
Realistically, we just really need the Premier League, right?
Yeah.
The other leagues are there, sure. People play them, but like nobody's coming to Sorare to be like, I'm going to play a free-to-play Bundesliga game. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, just the Premier League is perfect for the first, to get everything up and running and going. Yeah.
Yeah. So like if there was a path to good free-to-play content for Sorare, it's with the Premier League.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. The thing that gets me that I have mentioned numerous times, though, is that the free-to-play game doesn't do a good job of mimicking the real game, I'll call it. That, like, if you just play the Premier League game, sure, you could play Premier League semi-pro and pro and all that, but at some point, it's like you're going to have more cards, and figuring out how to prioritize certain ones in certain competition, like that doesn't exist in the free-to-play. And it doesn't seem like they have any desire to move it to that. Even like they had the basis for it previously, like with the old. They just
the casual league, they had it. Yeah. I was surprised that, and they kind of changed it a little bit when they introduced the academy and that, like, moving up the ranks in the free to play mode. But prior to that, I'm shocked that they didn't just introduce the limited lineup of tournaments at common level and show people how. And if you're like, you start in like the draft modes, and from that you win cards that then allow you to enter into the common division. So if somebody's like, oh, I don't have any common cards to play common all-star, what do I do? Just go and play the drafts. Just go and run the drafts until you get some common cards, and now you can start playing that mode. And that shows people how to move up the ladder, how to prioritize lineups, how XP works, how DNPs and things like that like really influence and impact lineups. I'm very surprised they didn't do that method.
It seemed like such an easy win.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember like sharing screenshots of essentially the common, I think they called it common all-star, didn't they? It's been a while, but it was like a full U23 team. It was like, I would love to play this in a common U23 lineup. The problem is that because I had been around a long time, I basically had every single elite card, but still want to play it somewhere. And that would have given me, or at least new users, the thought of, oh, I have Mbappe. Where do I play this card? U23, Champion Europe, All-Star. And we just never got that. And then this new game seems to move totally away from it.
And I understand like one of the big issues that they had with the Common League the way it was is that people that have been on the site longer just had all of the best players on the highest XPs and generally had that potential to just like dominate the platform. But if they really introduced the game at common level exactly how it is now, with collections at common level, the season XP disappearing and stuff, all of a sudden you can't just have the best cards with the best XP, because somebody could have 2% less XP, but they might have managed to win a full like common Arsenal team. So they've got the full Arsenal collection and have that 5% bonus that gives them the edge in a specific tournament instead. And it would introduce them into collections, and they'd be like, "Oh, let me actually just go and buy. Let me start buying my collection." And now now again they play the game more as a game rather than as a ROI machine, because it's like, okay, I've got the full common Arsenal collection. I really want the actual NFT version, or the actual tradable version. Sorry, not the they don't know what NFT means, but
who doesn't know?
Like people that play Sorare.
Oh,
yeah. Or people that play common Sorare. Yeah. If you're like, oh, you want the NFTs, they'd be like, no, I'm not playing that game.
Yeah, I would never play a game with NFTs in it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going through the chat, and there are a lot of people who have really good ideas of really, really expensive content. Where was the? Sorry, I'm just like scrolling through. Sorry, I like scrolled through it, and then I do like this though from Marco Sullivan. I've seen a complaint on the Fantasy Premier League subreddit where they said the amount of content creators using Fantasy Football Hub algorithm and talking about it in their videos has ruined the videos. Is that just because now everybody thinks they have the best teams? Somebody mentioned I lost the
so what, is there like an AI algorithm that basically determines what the best team is going to be? And then these content creators are like being like, hey, I had a eureka moment. What about this team?
Oh, I don't know if it's that or they actually give credit to it, but then everybody goes out and gets those players.
Oh, so then everyone's got the same.
On FPL, you can see who the most popular players are.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh yeah, I'll just if they're popular, they must be good. And yeah, there's that. Ian brought this up that I'm shocked that you haven't done this myself, Nep. He says, I'm shocked no one has tried to do a live show on Saturday or Sunday, 1 to 6, and do soccer Saturday style with live scores, live player scores, guests from different nations, etc.
Oh, we've talked about it. But again, it's one of those things, like, especially where I am in my content journey on YouTube and such, and I've got like a perfect setting behind me to do it. But like, if I was like, hey, Laird, next Saturday, come by the house and we'll do like a live football show, the expense for you to get here is just not worth it for the 78 people that would show up to watch it, you know? And so it is something I've thought about and talked about, and logistically, again, it's just not there. And this is where Sorare have to assign some form of budget to be like, we are going to choose the content creator they want, whoever it may be, John, myself, Quinny's office is really nice, and he's got his intro. Have you seen his intro to his podcast? Where I was like, oh damn, how's he got to the point where he's like walking in, but his computer's already? I was like, yeah. And then it was a bit, and so I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Like, I love that. But it's like they need to be like, look, here is a budget for 3 months. Here's what we want you to succeed with and achieve, and we just want to test it. And it might fail, but they have to put that money aside, even for failure, because if they don't try it, like Sorare will very, very, very slowly grow, but it will never peak. It will never hit the heights that it could if just somebody's not willing to invest in it.
Is sitting down and watching someone talk over a Sorare data game page with updating scores entertaining enough for people to watch every week?
If
like you're watching a highlight show with no highlights.
Yeah. Although, did you see the tweet, the eyes tweet from, who was it? Sorare? It was like, wouldn't it be cool to have, like, there was like a Bundesliga highlight or something. So there was something to do with actual highlights, but we'll have to see. Maybe that's part of the 3D game. I don't know. Is it interesting enough? It's interesting enough if there's, like, in my mind, I'm thinking like one person per league, not including the MLS, because obviously it's like late at night, and then like one host who's just talking about Sorare and whatever. And then, yeah, it cuts to, we've had a decisive action in the Bundesliga. And then you've sitting there being like, oh, what game is it? There's been a decisive action in Bayern. Please, come on. I've got Harry Kane. Is it Kane? And it's like, it's a penalty and it's Harry Kane. And all of a sudden, that person's like, yes. And it's like, maybe you already knew because like Sky Sports pinged it or SD pinged on your phone. But maybe you shut all that down for this show because you want to be like, all right, like let me monitor it live. That definitely has potential. Sorare Soccer Saturday definitely has massive, massive potential. And again, it's that sort of thing where until you start it and understand the logistics of it, figure out what people did like, figure out what people didn't like, and then develop it and create something that has value all the way around, until you actually start that process, you'll just never know, right? And like the first show could be an absolute shit show. It could be an absolute mess where everyone's going like, who the hell cares? Like, you're telling me 30 seconds after I already know this. And so it's like, okay, then we could develop it. But until somebody starts it, yeah, it's just, instead you're just limited to just flicking your Sorare data, being like, why doesn't this update when I flick it? Why do I have to close the app fully to get it to update?
It shouldn't do that. It should just update.
Yeah, I know it should be. It doesn't. Maybe it does, and I'm just impatient, but I have to like hard close the app and then reopen it. But I think I asked you this before. I don't know if you could tell me why. If I go to the games page on Game Week, why doesn't that page update automatically?
I don't know.
Because that's where you've got like all of your players. And you can click live and upcoming games only, games with lined up players only. And I just want it at that point.
Yeah, I know exactly.
That one you have to refresh, and then you have to like re-input your particular settings.
Like this one?
Yeah.
I don't know. This page looks old though.
There you go. Vitali said there's a technical reason on which we're working on. Perfect. I think you'd find, I'm sure you have the data anyway, but I think you'd find that is the most visited page and most time spent on page in your entire website if that comes as a feature.
Oh. Yeah. I was like, I can assure you it is not anywhere near the most popular pages. I never go to that page. Literally never.
Yeah, me neither at the moment.
We only made it. It took 39 minutes for you to throw out your first SD suggestion here.
I got loads more. I've got them for days. Yeah,
I know you do. Don't worry.
I've tried to limit it to one per podcast. So,
Mike said, "I just open each game because I want to see other players in addition to my own." Yeah, I think that would get messy. A single page with like every player from the game. Like it looked like you wouldn't all of them.
All you have to do is have it the way it is right now. Like if you go back to your page, your experience on there, So if that Reggiana versus Palermo just had a drop-down arrow that showed the SD pages if you clicked into the game with all 22 players, and then you bring it back up, there you go. Like honestly, what I see when I see this page is like you are using maybe like 20% of the real estate on that page.
Yeah.
And that, like, it is a gross waste. Like, you could just fit so many more vital key pieces of information there that would actually suit people. Yeah, imagine that as a drop down. And then if you did still want to click into it and get all of like the match data and the SD suggestions and things like that below, then you could click into it. But
I think you're onto something there, Nep. Good thing Clement is here, so I don't have to even pass that along. He
there you go.
Yeah, this is where and he sends me a message in a few minutes, and he's like, "Oh, we have a full design for this already. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, perfect.
Anyway, that's how we do it. So it seems like the solution or the next step for Sorare content is just copying other content that exists elsewhere. So it's not actually creating anything new, even though Sorare is supposed to be this new revolutionary change how we do everything.
It's not creating anything new, but it still is. Like I uploaded a video, a Road to Glory video the other day, and one of the comments on there was like, "Oh my God, like, why are you just copying what somebody else did?" And I thought, well, first of all the people that are still making FIFA content today, I'm pretty sure nobody was before me, which means they're all copying me because I made it first, right? And then in terms of Road to Glories, I made them first. And then in terms of these themed Road to Glories, I think, Josh, we looked at the other week, like, I made the first one. I just didn't kind of package it the way it's being packaged. So the whole like copying thing, it's okay to copy because it's innovative, right? As long as you don't if you just copy it, that's fine. And there is also room for somebody on Sorare doing something that really works on FPL, but with their personality and what they have to offer, their thoughts and their opinions. That's absolutely fine. There is room for two of the exact same pieces of content from multiple different people that all have different values. But I also just don't think there's anything wrong with kind of like utilizing what is successful in a really similar field to develop that into Sorare content.
But we don't think that there's anything currently being done that's worthy of, like, my complaint is essentially that we're copying content that I don't enjoy myself. So there's just more of that. And so what like, but this is where you have that edge already, because you know that at least for you, and it might be so niche that it's not worth it, but what do you want to see?
Yeah, maybe I don't even know yet. It's one of those that, like, I think I know what I don't want to watch.
Yeah, but yeah,
and there's a lot of it. And the good place here, this is exactly how I feel, is that he said, for me, they said, excuse me, content is just too focused on individual journeys rather than overall Sorare strategy, which actually reminds me of a comment. I think Johannatan made it earlier, that every gallery is unique.
Yeah.
And so it's really difficult to take what you have from your gallery. And you can always talk about like I assume, because I don't really watch them much, I assume every lineup building video, there has to be some sort of lesson that you get out of it, of learning how one person with these very specific combination of cards is prioritizing their lineup, which competitions to enter and which cards to use. But I don't feel like any of it is presented that way. It's just, here are my cards. Oh, what are we going to do today, lads? And we just type it all in, and it's like, oh, there are my lineups. Wish me luck. I'll see you on Tuesday for the rewards. And honestly, I'm not sure I would even watch it if it was full of lessons, but
it's mostly what you described. But today, when I did a stream to do my lineups, one of the pieces of information came up was that the Miami-Nashville game might be called off because a hurricane is heading that way. And that helped a lot of people. And I didn't have that news. Somebody in my chat had that news. So if I just sat there doing lineups by myself, first of all, I wouldn't have known that. So I would have Haney, Mukhtar, and Messi in priority lineups, which they're now not. And secondly, the 10 or 15 other people that had Nashville or Miami players wouldn't have been able to assess that themselves either, which then begs a question of like the overall piece of valuable knowledge that now is already irrelevant because the game week's locked. Should that have just been a shorts or a very short video? Should that have just been if you've got like, hey guys, like, you know, massive game week 401 weather news, if you've got these players, be wary that this is happening. So maybe that influences your decision, and that's all it has to be. And so if you create, I'm not going to say too much on this because I'm about to do this for myself on my own channel over the next several months and years. If you create a channel that isn't focused on long form content, but very short snippets of, hey, this goalkeeper's just transferred and he's an L15 of 0. So either if you have him, maybe now's a good time to sell him, or if you're looking for an L15 goalkeeper, be wary, the price might be inflated because of this news, but there is an option there for you. That might be enough.
So I had an idea that I'm absolutely not going to talk about here. That is not that. It is not that, but it is more on the short form stuff in terms of what's coming. I'll probably talk to you about it after this. Sorry, everyone. Stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these excellent, excellent short videos that are coming out. But it does seem like all of the, maybe I'm skewed because of Nellis's success with shorts, but it does seem like the only Sorare shorts out there are people opening rewards.
Yeah.
And I never thought that the reward opening experience of watching somebody else do it was the same as watching somebody open packs or rip physical card packs and all this stuff. That there was an element of, like, there's always an element of surprise because you don't really know what's coming. But also with the Sorare stuff, it's like, oh, okay, you won that card. I'm going to go back to not winning any card. You know, it's like, I don't know. It was weird.
But that's the same on FIFA, right?
It's different.
If you pack like a 99 team with you on FIFA, it's like, oh, good job you. I'm going to carry on using my gold card. Like, it's the same, really.
But it does feel like people are more fired up about that for some reason. And I think part of it is maybe the path to winning that gold is easier to see than watching somebody open a star super rare when you only play limited. And you're just like, that is so far away that I probably will never get there.
Yeah. And that's why, like, I have like this massive internal and sometimes external mental struggle with Sorare we touched on this the last time we had the podcast of, I genuinely think Sorare is too easy to profit at and to win at. But if it is too easy, it will fail. But it's not failing and people aren't winning. But in terms of content, again, you know, you're talking about like a star super rare. If I knew how to win a star super rare, because people ask me all the time, if I just start today, can I win cards worth money? I'm like, yeah, you can. You probably won't, but you can. And here's how: go and play the freeze plays, pick your team, you know, pick favorable matchups, like chain your players. So make sure you've got a goalkeeper and a defender together, and maybe a midfielder and a forward together. So if they all succeed, they all succeed. And then you get your first limited. And this is where, and I've touched on this like several times, this is where like that path to progression is, it's too, like, I understand why Sorare don't want to give too much away for free, because they think then you could just farm free and become millionaires and everyone wins. But first of all, limiteds now are just so cheap that if somebody wins 100 tier 5 limiteds, they maybe have won like £10. It's not like genuinely though, right? Like it's just not like, some of them are just going to be literally worthless and unsellable, and some of them might be like 30 cents or 20 cents or something, right? Like it's really not going to be that big of a deal. But also to win 100 tier 5 limiteds from free to play will take you probably like 10 years. And so that carrot isn't being dangled enough for somebody to be like, okay, over the last 3 weeks, I've actually won 5 limiteds. Do you know what? I've got 3 decent ones. Let me just buy 2 more to fill up this lineup. Like, I think the balance between the free-to-play rewards is way too on that low side, to the point where it's like, I have zero chance of winning anything, and even if I do, it's worthless. So what's the point?
Not to ruin limited time only for those people, but I won a reward the other day, and I posted it on the market at floor price for 67 cents, and 3 people undercut me, and nobody sold.
There you go.
The floor is now 50 cents and still not selling. But anyway, I was going somewhere else with that. Oh, I always thought it was that the biggest miss that they had was encouraging people to play. Is it semi-pro? Is that the one where you can play one limited? So it's the same game as amateur. Like, you can do the exact same lineup, but if you spend $5 for the limited version of one of the cards that you have in your amateur lineup, you have moved from competing against 95,000 people to like 4,000.
Yeah.
And yet there's no like, hey, this is the easiest way to compete against fewer people. And it's not there. I don't know.
I wonder if it's because it's not about competing, but about winning. The chance of me winning against 4,000 people is also pretty slim if there's only like 200 or 300 rewards on offer. And especially because that other guy there has got like Haaland, and there's like, you know, you could look, but like, let's just presume there was 25 Rodris and 25 Haalands in semi-pro last week. Now you've got no chance, because that Rodri's bagged 150 points for all those 25 people. That's 25 reward slots taken up, give or take. And so even then, like, just buying one limited, it's just not good enough. It does come to strategy, and it all comes back down to what essentially last week is like, people are just way too impatient, and they want everything yesterday, to the point where like even changing this again where I think Sorare make a mistake. Like on FPL, you can take a points hit for it, but you can restart everything. It probably isn't wise, and you probably don't ever need to restart everything. But even if you want to get rid of like 3 or 4 or 5 players at once, you just take a points hit. On Sorare, okay, you can exchange 4 players now on the leagues that have just come back, but that's because they're not back properly yet, and some people wouldn't have literally been able to play unless they could exchange 4. But on Sorare, you need to be able to be like, okay, this just didn't work. I need to scrap this and start again. And the fact that you can't do that is terrible for people, because like when I was going through my limited lineups, my common lineups today, like one of them, I was like, this is just a mess and I just need to start again. But for me to start again, I need to be like, let me change these 2 guys out this week, then wait a whole week and change 2 more, and then wait a whole week and, oh no, he had 2 really good game weeks. Now I can't actually even afford him in this lineup. So what I was working towards is gone. And if I could just scrap it all, get my 400 gems back and start again, I would.
Just buy a swap, man.
Yeah. You got 100,000 SO coins?
Do I?
Damn.
Yeah.
You've been saving.
I even have extra academy teams too. Not all of them. This is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to bring up. So thank you, Josh. Oh, Josh, of course it was Josh. So the fact that we also don't know what they call it points? He's calling it a gem.
Gems, yeah, I think it's gems, yeah. They
Does
call
Sorare
it points,
ever
but
call
it
them
is
gems?
No, but they are gems, aren't they? Because they're not points. Because they got a little gem next to them.
Well, I know they have a gem next to them, but I actually don't believe you. But, I mean, surely they call them points. Well, maybe they don't. I don't know. Whatever. They just need a wild card, right? Like fundamentally, that's all you need. 2 wild cards a season, just like copy FPL and that. Start over, go nuts, have fun.
I don't know if I'd be opposed to redraw. Like, you know, if you want to submit the same team each week, fair, especially if you're trying to build XP because you think you've got a team that will serve you well over the course of the whole season. I don't think there's any problem with redrafting entirely, because there's no month-long competition or anything like that. I don't think there's any problem with redrafting entirely every game week. because what Josh says, like if you've got Verts when he was a 40 gem player, I'm now keeping him for the whole season. But in terms of making content, if I've got my content account where I'm like, guys, let's destroy this entire team, let's create a brand new one and see what we're working with this week. That's content people are way more interested in because it's relevant to them. Whereas if I've got 40 gem Verts that I've had for 3 months and I've now got them on like 6% XP, and I'm like, yeah, guys, just use Verts and Hoffman. And they're like, well, they're 148 gems combined. And I'm like, well, I got Hoffman at like 47 and Verts at 40s. Why didn't you just do that? Yeah, now you can't do it, right? Like, so the only way you can do that is go by going, and then when those players like Verts come up, then you say, guys, if you've got Verts, now you have the consideration of, even if he's got a tough matchup or if he's been injured for a couple of games, maybe you still want to keep him and not delete him because he's invaluable to your cause.
I will say that the biggest issue, and it was actually somebody else, unless it was just Josh earlier, commented about that it does feel like the 40 gem Verts helps you for basically just when you get him, but getting rid of him and getting 40 back is infuriating.
Yeah.
Because you fundamentally got them when they were cheap. Like you believed in them when they were cheap, which is exactly what we have in the real game, that the player's price goes up if you bought him cheap, and you completely missed out on that.
And that's one of the things I thought was going to exist in the game, was if I bought a guy for 40 gems, then sold him, traded him out for 55, I would get 55 gems back. Yeah. Because then again, I'd be able to work towards a really good lineup and be like, yeah, if I do want, whoever like the top performers in the Bundesliga are right now, the highest L15s are Kimmich and a Verts and a Insert and other, if my lineup cost actually 520 gems, yes, then so be it. And then the extras on top. If I need like 750 gems to put together my whole 8-man team, and I've worked towards that over some game weeks, there's nothing wrong with that. And what Sorare miss with that is that they think that it becomes impossible for everyone to win, which maybe it does. Still same amount of people enter, still same amount of people that can win. So nothing really has changed there. What they miss on is people having a reason to be on the site. Again, content is like, all right, guys, this guy's been injured for a while. His L15 has dropped massively. Get rid of him now. Because he's been injured, if Kimmich gets injured and it's like, okay, he's out for 4 weeks, dump your Kimmiches now because his L15 will go down. And then wait until he's there, pick him back up again. You've got some extra gems for something else. Similarly, it's like, guys, go and get this L40 guy because he's going to be playing games. His rank is going to go up. Even if you don't use him, just have him as your extra. And then when he hits a threshold you're happy with, sell him off, get the extra gems to improve your team. It adds strategy to the game. And yeah, the people that end up being top might be the people with just the best 5. But as we well know, the best 5 players just don't always win, or don't even regularly win the tournaments.
Sure.
You could have, you could have the best L15 guys in all 5 positions right now, and you probably don't win a reward next week.
But fundamentally, that still moves you back to what we have, where everybody's collection is unique.
Yeah. And
the reason why FPL content is so popular is because everybody has the same damn teams. And so
yeah, but that I still think that would be good for Sorare though. I still think that would be really good for Sorare. Like then you could, if I've got like a sick team, and like if on like my main account, I'm like, guys, this is my my common Premier League lineup, and somebody's like, well, how the hell did you get that? Well, I can show you now. Rather than you can't ever get this because I got really lucky when insert player was 40 gems, or got the keeper got 2 0-point games in a row that massively brought his L15 down, that allowed me to pick him up where you can't anymore. Now you can be like, right, this is how you get this team.
This is how you do it. But I think that's the right content, and I don't think enough people realize that.
Yeah, but you can't do that now because you're limited with what you can do, right?
Sure.
If I'm like, oh, guys, go and get this goalkeeper and defender, and you're like, I can't. I'm stuck with players that I just don't care about and don't want to use. That's it. Yeah.
See, the content actually isn't the problem. It's the people watching the content.
Yeah.
They're the problem.
They are, 100%.
Thanks for everyone for joining, by the way.
Yeah, I agree with Simply Alex. Drafts do need a complete rework. They are. It's another one of those things that felt rushed. Like I haven't really made my content yet on the changes of the fitness bonus and whatnot, but it just seems like they do things to try and be different and create different edges and different values, and they don't really think it through. And then when the community kind of like completely tears it apart, they're like, oh, we didn't think about that massive glaring flaw. Yeah, let's not do that and do something different instead. And it's the same with like the draft. From what I believe and understand through, you know, the channels I've been reading and stuff, they had to introduce draft to abide by certain gambling laws, and particularly in certain countries. And it's like, it just feels a bit rushed. Like the Global Cup was a success, but it was the World Cup. There was no other football on. Like there was no fantasy Premier League. Like Sorare was just the place. So everybody got involved and they had a massive marketing push for it. The draft mode is basic, isn't it? It is very, very simple.
Yeah.
And yet very hard.
I thought I mentioned this somewhere. I thought I said this out loud. But the way that Sorare works and how everything is based on the cards and the timing of how and the literal sense of like how cards are created puts them at a gigantic disadvantage at maximum interest in fantasy football or every league. And the biggest thing they need to do is convince people that you can start playing fantasy football in October.
Yeah.
And that's really difficult.
I don't think it's really difficult because collections exist. Everything can be driven towards collecting your favorite team, even if it's as simple as, again, changing the rule structure, collect a full team, but by playing in the fantasy and winning common cards, and earn a signed, you know, digitally signed version of that team at random. And you might get a digitally signed guy that doesn't play, but hey, you've now got that card. You can sell that card if you want. Maybe people are now collecting signed cards because they want to add it to their collection for the bonus XP. Maybe you keep that card and you want to just keep playing and collecting cards. But like they need, like, I don't think the gap needs to be bridged between playing Sorare and playing fantasy. I think it needs to be between playing Sorare and like Panini collecting, because people love that side of things as well. And, you know, when I was having a crisis of confidence with my YouTube career a year and a half or so ago, a guy who's massive in FIFA came and he was like talking to me, and he said, like, don't make videos like Danny Aaron's, because Danny Aaron's makes videos like Danny Aaron's. Sorare don't need to be FPL, but across multiple leagues. They need to be Sorare. And the only way they can do that is by taking what's important to the actual Sorare like ecosystem and having people's experience with that be brilliant, and that will succeed.
Do you think you have a NepentheZ way of doing Sorare content yet?
No.
I feel like there's basically 2 or 3 people that have like a specific way. I'm not one of them.
Who do you think is then?
I think it's Quinny and Nellis. Yeah. And if there are others, it's not that I don't think they have a way. It's just, I just don't know enough about them. And Nellis is moving away from his. Like, like Nellis does his like lineup builder videos. Somebody said it, like that's all his Sorare content is now, but like that's what it's always been. Like, I don't know if anyone other than those two have more lineup building videos on YouTube than, like, because they've done it from the beginning, which it probably looks very different now than it did at the beginning, or even a year ago, 6 months ago. But like, I think they can take credit for creating lineup building videos. how you were like, I created Road to Glory, or I did them first, basically. And yeah, Mike Besson said Royal Ivy definitely has a way. That's one I need to. That's just all he does is trade, right? Do I remember that correctly?
Trading is definitely difficult, especially like my size. Like, you know, I've shown you a few of my recent trades because I'm a pro trader in that. And when I started my stream today, one of the first comments in my stream was, "Net, why did you buy all those West Ham players?" And I was like, I didn't mention that. I didn't tweet that, which means people are just watching my gallery, seeing what I'm buying. And I'm like, if I go out and buy 10 Alphonse Areolas, somebody's going to go, he's got some inside knowledge on something. I'm going to go and buy some as well. And all of a sudden it hyperinflates his price. Then it corrects. Loads of people lose loads of money. And it's at my expense, especially if I do it on like
literally. Actually,
if I make a video and say, "Hey guys, buy Areola because of this reason here," it's just a recipe for disaster. And that's something that's really tricky with Sorare trading content in general. Is like you almost have to complete the process before you showcase what you did and why. At which point nobody cares because they can't profit off of themselves.
So that is part of what we're trying to do on limited time only. And Gator Guy and I go back and forth between, do we talk about what we're going to do or do we talk about what we did? And my goal is for people to watch that and not be like, oh, that's the player I should buy. But it goes back to the whole thing. Understand why I bought these cards, and then you can use that to buy other cards. But people are just like, oh, I'll just buy those cards. And it's like, well, those cards are 20% higher now.
Yeah,
so now
go buy the equivalent card instead. And then
right.
Yeah.
The trading stuff is really interesting to me. And I don't know, because so the whole, you got messages about you're buying the West Ham cards. I had somebody DM me the other day asking if there was a way to set up notifications that they could get on their phone every time a manager in their manager watch list bought a card. So like Nep buys a card, I get a notification on my phone, Nep just bought this. And my response immediate was like, what if you follow Pavel? Like your phone will literally not stop.
Yeah.
They're like, no, but I'll just have other managers on it. I'm like, somebody is bound to put Pavel and Rody and all the traders on it. So like, oh, so I know exactly what cards they get. I mean, they get like hundreds. You would get like thousands of alerts a day from this.
Yeah. Be a good way to seem popular to people, though, wouldn't it?
It would what?
It'd be a good way to seem popular to people. You're just at a bar, like your phone's like blowing up. You're like, sorry guys, it's just popular, you know.
Maybe that's what it all is. But people do that. Like they watch what other people are doing. I mean, it's one of the reasons we have that recent, or I think we call it last arrivals on the manager watch list. You can see which cards people are getting, but it's back to that like following mentality. Like, oh, I'm going to buy that card because he bought it. And it's like, do you know why he bought it? And it's like, I don't care, but the price is around the same, so I'm good.
Here's one of the issues with content over the long term, which we started to see in FIFA a lot these days, is like back in FIFA 11, I want to say, there was like a free kick glitch, and I was able to score every single free kick with the second man, not the first man, 100% of the time from anywhere on the field, as long as there was a wall. I would score it 100% of the time. And I didn't make a video on it because I didn't really know that it was a glitch or exposure or anything like that. Now,
sorry, did you say you didn't know it was a glitch? You just thought you were so good that like...
No. It's I didn't know why I didn't know how, and it transpires like when I talked about it like some years later, somebody else was like, "Oh yeah, I knew about this. The second man just has 99 in all stats as a bug." I was like, "Right, that makes perfect sense then," because I was doing it with like players that just shouldn't have been able to do it. Now, if there's like something in the game that's like overpowered like that, it's got 10 million views between all the social platforms within like 2.5 to 3 days. So everybody knows about it. And as a consequence of that, the general standard of FIFA player is significantly better because everybody understands how to play the game significantly better. And there's a worry, not worry, but it's something to ponder, I guess, that if everybody understands how to play So Rare way better, then everybody's going to be better at So Rare, which is going to make it so much harder to win anything, which might be counterproductive for So Rare.
Because we all just bitch and whine that it's too hard.
Well, because like the overall idea, like imagine the current climate of So Rare is exactly the same in terms of number of cards, XP, all the bonuses, all the percentages, but the volume of points required to win goes up 30% because everybody's just better. It's going to like create another barrier between like star cards are just going to be like right now. I was looking on stream just earlier today on like certain super rares, and I'm like, wow, this super rare like 3 months ago when he was off season was like £400. Now he's like moved. He's playing well. You will never get him now.
Yeah.
And that will, if all of the points required went up 20 or 30% when everything else is the same, that would start happening with rares. You'd never be able to get a rare Bruno Fernandes. You'd never be able to get a rare Kimmich. And so it would just create a point where like the top percentage of players are impossible to get and everything else is pointless and worthless. And that would be bad for So Rare.
Yeah, but by then we're going to be more excited to win coins anyway. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, precisely.
As you can see, I spent all of mine already. So
yeah. Did you go for the shirt that was there before? I didn't even see how many were there because they gave the notification of it coming about like 45 minutes before it was there, and I just couldn't get to my computer. And I was like, well, that's just really unfair, isn't it?
I was fully able to do it and had no interest in a signed Austrian Bundesliga random shirt.
But you could sell it for real money, and with that real money, buy cards on So Rare, converting your coins to cards. Which probably isn't what they want people to do with it, but that's definitely what I would do with it.
What do you mean? You don't want to I was like literally going to look up the most random Austrian Bundesliga team, but
well, I wouldn't mind like Salzburg because I've got Soleil.
Well, yeah,
and then I've also got Sarkaria from Sturm Graz, and he's a bit of a baller. So is it Sturm Graz? Whoever he plays for, you know, I'm obviously like well up on my Austrian Bundesliga team. So. Yeah.
It was actually one thing that came up in last week's So Rare podcast, not to give Nellis too much airtime here, but Sam Tai, who was on with him, asked him, would you rather have an Umar Soleil signed jersey or a full Salzburg signed jersey? And like not even know where the Soleil, like which one do you actually want? Because he has like a Soleil super rare. And it was like, oh, that's a good question, actually. Because like, theoretically, it's worth more if you have more autographs on it. But
yeah, I don't know if you can see. Let me move. No, you can't. Can you see that red thing there? Probably just about, maybe not.
Just about. I can see like a shape.
So there's two signed Arsenal jerseys there. Full team jerseys. One of them was from So Rare. They kindly sent me a signed Arsenal shirt. One of them wasn't, but I haven't framed them or anything yet. They're just sat there and they're literally like gaining dust and stuff, and they're going to be worth far less than they should be. But when it arrived, I was jokingly, I said to Lauren, I was like, maybe I should just sell this and go and buy like some So Rare cards. And she was like, how much is it worth? And I'm like, I genuinely have no idea. Like, but I'm sure somebody would pay a reasonable sum of money for a full 2022, 2023 signed Arsenal jersey. So if you're out there, hit me up.
So you can go out and buy Arsenal cards.
Yeah. Super rares. Right.
That would be quite... I would watch that video of how you somehow got a signed jersey from So Rare. It would be like, I would love to see you like in the office getting it. Be like, I'm going to cherish this forever. And then like it splits and you're like, so you want $300 for this? Is this but then you go deposit it.
You're old enough and been around on the internet long enough to have seen the red paperclip story, right? And that was like a genuine thing that somebody did using, I think, Craigslist or something, where they traded a red paperclip and ultimately ended up with a house and the deeds to a house. And I think that there's room for that in So Rare, of like how I won a reward for free and it led to this. But that's where I think that a process is too slow in Sorare's regard. And I get it. They want to drive people to buy cards, but it would be way better if I could show in any reasonable amount of time, even if it was like some months, but 2 or 3 months, like, guys, I started playing for free. I finally won a free to play reward. I could get a unique by like, okay, this free to play reward I sold for £1. I bought another card for £1 that I sold for 180. You could trade up in terms of trading the card values, but in terms of actually trading the cards, if I could just trade a card for a card and then eventually get that to my first rare and no money has exchanged hands, just cards, that's something that would thrive in terms of Sorare content, because wouldn't that be cool to watch somebody's journey of like, all right, I finally traded this for like my first super rare. I've got a hankering that he's going to start in 2 weeks' time because of international duty or whatever it may be. And so then his value is going to go up. So I'm going to trade him for this next super rare, and you start putting things in play. And if you could show somebody within like 3 months how you went from free to play to owning a unique, that would interest people, and it would attract people to the site to actually get involved, even if it is that whole like dangling the carrot kind of situation where, again, it's not like people aren't really going to do this, but all it takes is the concept to be proved for people to think that it is possible for them to buy in. And at the moment, nobody's buying in from the free to play stuff because the premise is that it's impossible to win anything.
Before I sold my limiteds, I thought of doing that, only using the bots. That basically, like, could I beat the bots from turning this red paper clip, which was a 50-cent limited card, all the way up? It was too much work. That's why I didn't do it. But from the content side of that story, this 100 hours of content that you do during that journey gets 1/10 of the views as the 3-minute video that you do the summary at the end.
Yeah.
Is the 100 hours worth it?
If it took, well, right now, it depends, because if it literally took 100 hours, it would depend on how many views the summary gets. And if that's the sort of video that goes viral and gets millions of views, 100% it's worth it. But if it's the sort of thing that goes viral in Sorare's ecosphere and gets like 15,000 views, then yes, it's probably not worth it.
Yeah, I do think everybody would watch a video that said, this is how I turned a 50-cent limited into a super rare.
Yeah. So one of my most successful videos, when I actually was trying to find my niche on my Sorare channel, and I didn't do anything more with it because I'm lazy and all that sort of stuff, is the 4th most successful video on my channel, which has just hit 10,000 views, is over a year old. And it's titled How £3,000 Became Over £10,000 in One Game Week on Sorare. And all I did was take first place in All-Star Rare, calculate the cost of his team, calculate the cost of his reward, and be like, he used his $3,000 team to win his $10,000 reward. Well, I also included like the positive equity of his card values and stuff, because he spent 3,000 on the team, and then I think it was worth like 4,500 at the time that he actually won the reward, and that's got 10,000 views. And when I look at collections, and when I go to even if I went right now and looked at like first place in All-Star Limited, I personally am fascinated by how much did you pay for that team and how much are you going to win. And I think other people are as well. And so showcasing that sort of thing, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to constantly showcase, like, this person bought this team, this is what they won, as like the introduction of the video, and then have like a deep dive of like, why did they buy these players? Why did this team work? Was it just like dumb luck? Was it a collection? What kind of gallery did they have? Like, I'm fascinated by like the ins and outs of that. And I genuinely think, and I think the views on that video shows that generally people are fascinated by that too.
It's never because of the collection bonus. But anyway.
It's always because of the collection bonus.
Was that your reward, or you were talking about somebody else?
Somebody else's, nothing to do with me. Yeah.
I'm going to ask one last question before we go. Have you figured out your Sorare niche yet? Like, you just said this was before I figured out my Sorare niche. Have you figured it out?
No, because what I meant was when I was trying to make content, like actually make content on Sorare, not just do like lineup builders and stuff, this was what I thought would be good. And then I did it, and then I just never did it again. So I hadn't figured it out then, and I thought this was going to be it. And if I had continued doing this, I think that series would be like quite successful, like just picking isolated people each week and looking at their galleries, looking at their winnings and losings and whys and hows and what fors. Yeah, my niche is definitely collection bonuses, but not even collection bonuses, collections in general.
Yeah,
and we've talked about it to death, and I talked about it on stream again today. But they give you insane value in many different facets of Sorare, and it can't be understated. Like, they are just the best thing to do on Sorare, in my opinion. It's even better than Sean's ideology of just spend more money on more better cards. Like collections is just better. Collections are better for your everybody, not for a whale or a particular person. They're just better for the general punter on Sorare.
So what's stopping you from doing these videos? Going back, like, if you think it would still have worked, we don't have that, Nep.
Yeah. Well, what's stopping me from doing it? I'm lazy. That's it.
Yeah,
that's all it comes down to. Or going back to like actually the start where we're talking about, you know, some content creators now just want to get paid for just streaming a game, and they think that's enough. That's where I'm at in my Sorare journey. Like just streaming Sorare or making a video giving my opinion on Sorare at the moment per the view count is just enough. Why would I give any more effort into it when it's just not giving me much back, even though giving the effort in the first place is what will then generate the return? But yeah, that's where it's at.
I want to believe that the more you do that, like the more you do the minimum, that when you have to do more, I don't even want to call it the maximum, that at least you know what that entails, as opposed to trying to do the maximum right away and you're just like, I didn't realize how hard this was.
Yeah. That is what, like, one of the fun things about Sorare is that it's just overwhelming. Like, everywhere. Like, there are so many, like, I've never ever played a game, especially when it has like financial like gains and losses like attached to it, that has so many successful strategies. There's
not a single way to win.
Yeah. And that for me is like, it is so like, I want all of the successful strategies, but you can't have them all. Like, maybe you can have 2 or 3 at most, but you can't have them all. You can't be a trader and an SO5 player. You can't have collections and have the best players, because there are only so many tournaments you could play these cards. So if you have like 30 collections, but then you've also got like Hill and Kimmich and somebody else for your team, it's like, well, now you miss out. Like, but one of your collections is playing the newly promoted side who's got like, you know, 3 of their best players out for injuries. Who do you play? Like, and then you play the wrong one, and then it's like, I wish I just didn't have this side of it. So that it removes that. It removes the decision from me to have made a wrong decision. If I only have one option, I don't make a wrong choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a really efficient gallery because I don't like making decisions. So I just,
yeah.
I have 10 cards for 2 lineups and I never have more. Pablo said here, I also do the minimum at work and call it a day. I don't think that's totally what we meant, but it's a little bit of what
it is. Yeah. It's kind of there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Thanks everybody for joining us. I got to go. I would do this more if I didn't have to, but like we said, school's back tomorrow, baby. So thank you everyone for joining us. Please like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. And yeah, limited time only. I believe we'll be back tomorrow. There is a gigantic hurricane that may push us to Thursday. So we'll see. If not, we'll flip with Sorare Andrews. You'll just find out later. So thank you everybody for joining us, and good luck.